Hello, this is Chris of Light and Joy Designs, and today I'm going to teach you how to make this really beautiful woven moss stitch. This is a wonderful fabric that has a woven look to it because you're using two different yarns and it creates this really cool fabric. I've made it here as a trivet and also as a coaster, and I'm going to show you how to make this today. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need 2 skeins of contrasting yarn. I'm using Premier Home recycled cotton in the colorway Violet Splash and Denim Splash. You're also going to need a crochet hook, whatever size you like. Today I'm using a J hook. That's a 6.0 millimeter hook. You're going to need a yarn needle, scissors, and optionally a stitch marker. To begin this pattern, you're going to chain a even number of chains plus 1. And my son just said to me, wouldn't that just make that an odd number of chains to start? And he is right. The reason why I state it this way is so that you know how many stitches you're going to have in your project. So for this one that I'm making, I'm just making a little coaster. I'm going to have 10 stitches altogether. So I'm going to start with 10 chains plus 1. You can think of it either way, but the even number is going to be the number of stitches that you're going to be doing back and forth in your project. Now, to decide which color goes on the outside and which color goes on the inside, you're going to start with the color that is going on the outside. That's the color we're going to start with. So for me, I'm starting with the Denim Splash, the darker color. Going to start by making a slip knot. I just cross it over and pull a loop up through that loop. Put that on your hook. Leave a tail that you can sew in later. Get that nice and tight, and then I'm going to chain 10 stitches, 10 chains plus 1, so it'll be 11. So to chain, you're just going to yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 1, 11. So for row 1, we're just going to do a row of all single crochets, and you're going to start in the second chain from your hook, and you're going to be weaving in your contrasting color, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So for the contrast color that's being woven inside of these stitches, it needs to be thicker than the thread that you're using for making the actual stitches. In this case, I have my 2 yarns are the same thickness. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to triple this yarn. And what you do is let me show you, you're going to double it, and then you're going to triple it, and this is going to be what we're going to be weaving through. Every time you get to the end of your tripling, you're going to take your long end and you're going to put it through that loop, and then you're just going to pull it through for another length. And this will not, this place where you have made more of this triple will not show up. And then when I get to the end of this length, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this loop, and I'm going to take my long end and pull it through and make another strand of my tripled up yarn. The reason why we do this is so that it will show up well in your fabric. So here are my 11 chains, and I'm going to go into the second chain from my hook. So here's the first chain and here's the second chain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my contrasting yarn and I'm going to lay it on top. It's just the first stitches are a little fiddly. You want to leave a little bit for a tail to weave in. So this is the first chain, this is the second chain. I'm going to go into this second chain. I'm just going to go under one thread of that chain. I'm going to get this contrasting yarn on top. I'm going to yarn over and pull through a loop. I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's my first single crochet. And then I'm going to just do that in every stitch across. So I'm going to go into the next chain here, into this loop, the top loop of that chain, keeping the contrast yarn on top, yarn over, pull through a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That's my next single crochet. And if you are new to crocheting, what you might want to do is just put a stitch marker in the first single crochet. This way you won't lose any stitches. So let's do that one more time. We're going to go into the next chain here, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm just going to do this all the way to the end. All right, and I have 1 chain left. We'll make that last single crochet, and that's completed. So now we're going to go to the next row, but before you do, at the end of each row, just pull your piece as wide as the stitches will go, so that your contrasting yarn is pulled so that it's not going to get bunched up. All right, so let's take a look at row 2. Okay, so this is row 2. This is the first of the 2 repeat rows for this moss stitch or woven stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1. We're going to do a single crochet into that first crochet the last crochet that we just made. We're going to chain 1 and skip a stitch, and then we're going to do a single crochet into the next single crochet, and you just repeat that through. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, and then the last stitch is going to be single crochet. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I want to mark the front of my work. So what I've done is I've just put a stitch marker here on the left-hand side. This is the front of the work, and I've made a little note to myself so I won't forget. The purple stitch marker, when it's at the left, equals the front of the fabric. Okay, if that stitch marker is on the right, I'm at the back of the work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work. And whenever you're starting a row on the back, your contrast yarn is going to come around the back. So it's going to come up the side on the back of the work, as opposed to going around the front of the work. Okay, so let me catch that loop there, and we've got our contrast yarn laying on top now. Now I'm going to go into this very first stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet. Then I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to skip a stitch, and in the next stitch I'm going to make a single crochet, making sure that the contrasting yarn is laying on top of my work. Chain one, skip one, single crochet into the next one, chain one, skip one, go into the next stitch and make a single crochet, chain one, skip one, go into the next stitch, make a single crochet, and here we are. We marked this first stitch here, so I'm going to make my last single crochet right into that stitch, and I will move this stitch marker. Actually, I'm going to move it over to my first single crochet here. And now I'm ready to move on to row 3. And before you do that, for every row when you finish, I want you to pull it from side to side so that it's your contrasting yarn is not getting bunched up inside. Now for row 3, we just worked all the way down here. Sorry, we worked all the way down here. For row 3, it's basically the same as row 2. It's just going in the opposite direction. So you're going to chain one, do a single crochet into that first single crochet, chain one, you're going to skip over this stitch, and then you're going to do a single crochet into this chain one space. You're going to make a chain one, single crochet into the chain one space, chain one, skip the stitch, single crochet into the chain one space, and so on all the way to the end. Your last 2 stitches will be 2 single crochets, one into the chain one space and the last one into the last single crochet. All right, so I've pulled my work into place. I'm ready to turn my work. I'm going to chain one, and now I see that my purple stitch marker is on the left, so that means I'm back on the front. So when we're on the front of the work, we are going to take our contrasting yarn and bring it up the back, as opposed to before when we brought it to the front. Okay, we're going to bring it over on the back. And now I'm going to do a single crochet into this first stitch, and then I'm going to chain one. I'm going to skip over this first single crochet right here, and I'm going to go into this chain one space and make a single crochet. Chain one, skip this single crochet, go into this chain one space right here. Make sure not to catch the threads of your contrast yarn. Single crochet, chain one, skip one, make a single crochet in that chain one space, chain one, skip one, make a single crochet into this last chain one space, and then here we are at our last single crochet. Make sure the contrast yarn is on top, and make my last single crochet, and then I'm just going to move this stitch marker, and see how it gets a little bunched up. So I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to put the stitch marker into the first single crochet that I made. If you are experience with crochet, you won't need to do this, but it's a great way to keep from losing, dropping stitches or adding stitches. So this, we're going to repeat at this stage. We're just going to repeat row 2 and row 3 for the total amount that you want your piece to be. So we would just do another row 2. It's basically the same row, it's just in a different direction. And our contrasting yarn, we're going to do a chain 1. I'm going to turn the work, and now I'm at the back of the work, so that means I want to bring my contrasting yarn up the back. So I bring it up the back, and I've already pulled it out. So you want it to just be, you know, you don't want it to be like hanging out here. You want it to be just snugged right in there. I'm going to go into that first stitch and make my first single crochet. I like to pull that loop, make it sure it's snug, and that's my first single crochet. Chain 1, go into the first chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, go to the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, the next single crochet space, single crochet, and here we are at the last one. So for this one, I'm just going to make a single crochet into that stitch. I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to pull my piece into place, and I'm going to go into this first single crochet right here. These 2 threads, there's 1 and 2, and that will mark that. So now you're just going to continue that until you have the size you want, minus 1 row. So and I'll just show you the turning of this. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to turn the work, and now I know that I'm at the front of the work because my purple stitch marker is here on the left. So that means that my contrasting yarn is going to come around the back of the work when I start this row. So then I go in here and I just start that repeat row all over again. So I'll meet you when this piece is about this big, and I'll show you how to do the last row. So then for the last row, you're just going to do chain 1, and you're going to single crochet all the way across. And then when you are done with that, you can, if you would like, you can do a single crochet edging on the 2 sides, or you can just leave it as is. With this one, I did the single crochet edging on both sides, and I'll show you what it looks like here at the end. So I'm ready to do my last row, and I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and I've already pulled it into place. My stitch marker is here on the right hand side. That means I'm on the back. So that means I want my contrast yarn to come up the back. And I'm just going to do a single crochet into each stitch. And so we're going to have 1 into that first single crochet. I'm going to have another one into the next single crochet. I have another one into this chain 1 space. I'm going to have another one in this single crochet, 1 into the chain 1 space, into the single crochet, into the chain 1 space, into the single crochet, into the chain 1 space, and then finally into this last single crochet. I'm going going to pull that work out. And this is what it looks like if you don't finish the edges, which is actually kind of nice too, because you have your contrast color makes these nice little loops at the end. So it's up to you if you want to leave it like that, or if you want to, you can do a single crochet edging on both sides, on the two sides. So the way that we do that is we're going to chain one, and you're just going to do a single crochet into each of these rows. So that's one. This is the next one. This is the next one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to just join this here into this first chain. And then I'm going to chain one and cut my yarn, pull that yarn through, and we'll sew that in after. These are my tails. These ones that I just sewed over, this basically, like, you can either cut them and sew them in, or in my case I'm just actually going to cut them because this is the back and they're sewn in. They've been crocheted over, so as far as I'm concerned that's fine. And then I'm going to come on this side and I'm going to make a slip knot. So this is the other edge. Make a slip knot. I'm going to go into this first chain down here. I can take this out now, I don't need it anymore. I'm going to pull that loop through that chain. For some reason that tail really wants to get used. Okay, here we go. Chain one and single crochet. I'm going to go into the next stitch, single crochet, go into the next stitch, single crochet, the next row, the next stitch, next one. So there's basically one single crochet per row that you made. And then I'm just going to go into this last, it was the single crochet here, and do a single crochet there. I'm just going to chain one, and I'm going to cut my yarn, pull that through. I'm going to sew in the ends, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so this little coaster is complete, and I've done the crochet edging on both sides, and you can see it has this really cool woven look to it. And this kind of fabric would be great. You could use a thin yarn for the crocheting and like a bulky yarn for this contrast yarn. And you could, you know, use it for making blankets or sweaters and have this really cool woven look. For the trivet size one, I did 20 stitches across, and I did a total of 17 rows. So that's how to make this woven moss stitch. I hope that you love it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see any more of my videos, please subscribe and take a look at the links below for where you can see the written pattern for this. And I hope to see you again real soon. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.